Greetings, everyone. Greetings, everyone. Good morning. The date is the 18th of August, 2023. And we are excited as SECAP to host this webinar. And it is a Women's Month webinar with our theme, Women's Empower. We wish to acknowledge that women in architecture are important to us as SECAP and also are important in what they represent. Therefore, we know that others are still joining in. Even as we start this program, we'll give it a few minutes so that all could come in. We'll give it a good 1 minute, 2 minutes as people are joining in. We've got a great lineup for our program today, whereby we will have our opening and a welcome by our Council President, Mr. Charles Ndugu. We've got our speakers, Anita Sentesi. We have got also in the panel, Dr. Judith. We also have in the second session, we'll have Matebe, who will be speaking, the architects in our midst. We also have Nadira that will be speaking. Therefore, and then we're expecting to finish our program around about 9. We will keep communicating. We'll have a tea break at about 10:30 to 11:15. Therefore, you can plan your day around those times. We really appreciate that you could join us in this conversation. Can I then take this time to introduce and welcome the Council President, Mr. Charles Ndugu, for his welcome address. Are you ready, President?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair.
Please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pepeta. Let me first thank you all for allowing me to open the webinar, the women's webinar actually in architecture. You know, it is so important that we all recognize the role women have made in the society and architecture in general. My name is Charles Ndugu. As the chair has said, I'm the current president of SECAP. I was born in the rural areas of Kumbu. I'm now residing in East London. I was actually born by a woman who raised me to be the man I am today, despite all challenges women face in the society. We are not giving enough recognition to women for raising the nation. Actually, women are raising the nation. The African proverb, which says it takes a village to raise a child, should be credited to women in general, because women are the ones who are actually making sure that we grow as children in a safe environment. But today we are focusing in architecture, in women in architecture. We are not focusing in the role of women in general. But those days of looking at women as those that are giving support or only are supposed to be looking after children are gone. Women are the leaders today. Women are as capable as men. Despite all the challenges that women are facing, women are actually forging forward. Women have to sort of balance between childbearing, looking after the family, and working full-time in an architectural practice. On the other hand, women have to actually, on one hand or one arm, carry a child, and then on the other hand, with a pencil to design. Women are able to multitask. Women have shown a lot of ability. Women are strong. Women are hardworking. It is actually very difficult for women to convince clients that the women are as capable as men. Whenever the woman is leading a project, there is always a skepticism, but women always come and prove all the skepticism wrong. Look at one of the best architects, Zaha Hadid, how long it took her to actually emerge and be recognized as one of the best architects. Because when you look back at the beginning of her career, she produced sterling architectural work, but she had to even put more and more effort. So today, I think as women were actually not given opportunity, to study architecture, but now the world has opened up to women. Women are studying architecture, but women are still few in this profession. I think we need to create an inclusive environment to educate a girl child so that we can have more women in architecture. Today's webinar is not about us men, it is about women in architecture. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm just going to hand over to you and wish you the best in today's webinar. Please talk to us, talk to the world, talk to the nation, and tell the nation how good you are, how capable you are as women in architecture. Thank you very much for those words. I welcome all of you, and I am declaring the webinar open. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, President. Before you switch off your video, I know that we invited you. It's a women's webinar, and we appreciate for honoring the invite. And especially, I will not mention who advocated for you to open, because we're saying, no, we don't need a man to open. But we were told that you are the father of a woman in architecture. Your daughter also did architecture. So we are really excited that you could honor this invitation. And for your kind words, you have already said that this webinar is opened and we are welcome. So with those words, thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And as we move on, I will then take this time to introduce our speakers. The bio that I will read is for the Vice President, Lisabesa Shongwa, because she will be the facilitator in our next session. Ms. Lisabesa Shongwe, known as Tsabi, is the current Vice President in the South African Council of Architectural Profession, the 5th Term Council. Lisabesa Shongwe is a practicing architect. She is the principal of ArcLive Architects. She's the first woman to be appointed as the president of the South African Council for the Architectural Profession when she assumed office on 27 July 2018. She holds a master's degree in architecture with 15 years full-time practice experience. She has also served the council as chairperson of the Stakeholder Relations Committee, as well chairperson of the Professional Fees Committee. She was awarded in 2005 the coveted regional Coral Brick winner, coming in at the 2nd position nationally. Her professional experience includes being part of the Soccer City Design Stadium. She has exposure to architectural work in the aviation space at the major OR Tambo Airport node, education and healthcare, among others. Tsabi is also known as the member of the South African Institute of Architects and has mentored a couple of matriculants who in turn all gained entry into the architecture as their choice of study. Ms. Sabi, I welcome you and I hand over to you this panel session.
Yes, thank you, my awesome counselor, Mandisa. It's always an honor to be preceded by you. You know, when somebody reads your bio, it feels a bit surreal. It feels like, who was that? Because, you know, when you're going about the business or doing architecture, you're just moving and gaining dust, but you don't see that you've actually been gaining a lot of exposure, experience, and increasing your portfolio. Okay, so thank you. And this first session is we have on our panel, we have architect Anita Sentesi, and we have architect Dr. Judith Ojo Omoro Kudu. And firstly, our first topic is going to be about inclusive institutions. I have an interesting article here for you and talks about what do inclusive institutions look like. Now, in inclusive institutions means like to bestow equal rights and entitlements and enable equal opportunities, voice, and access to resource and services. Are typically based on principles of universality, non-discrimination, or targeted action. Targeted action is needed where some people and groups are particularly disadvantaged and therefore require differential treatment to achieve the equivalent outcome. So it means that when you're trying to go for an inclusiveness, you may need to treat certain groups in order to create equilibrium. And then examples of inclusive institutions, they are universal age-related state pensions, universal access to justice and system, universal pay, and which are non-discriminatory, meteoric recruitment in civil service, inheritance laws that protect widows and land rights. You know, those are very important. And those that are targeted, you could say they are affirmative action to increase the proportion of women political representatives, budget rules that prioritize investment and disadvantaged areas. Now that is very, very important, particularly when it comes to law and inheritance and matters of land, because we come from a time where even women couldn't even inherit the land that you've been plowing on with your family. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Anita Setsi. Anita Setsi is an architect, and her topic is going to be about inclusive institutions, culture, and heritage. She is a lecturer and a filmmaker who's based in South Africa, who is trained at the University of Wits. She completed the professional practice and management in architecture course at the Bartlett School of Architecture, UCL. She is a registered architect with the South African Council of the Architectural Profession, being SACAT, being us. She is currently pursuing a doctoral degree in Wits. At Wits, her ongoing research is a balance between the two academic disciplines of architecture and film. Alongside her doctoral research, she teaches in the undergraduate design and design representation studios and supervises master students at the University of the Witwatersrand School of Architecture and Planning. Yes, so Ms. Setsi, I'd like you to come through and present your presentation or talk to our people. Remember, it's also Friday, so this is your time.
Thank you. Sorry, it's Sentesi, but
Sentesi. Okay. My apologies.
Right.
Yes, Anita Sentesi.
Thanks. Okay. So I'll be sharing my screen, and I'm going to sort of show a moving image, sort of about my personal experience with inclusive institutions. So that obviously, for me, it's about teaching and what, how I've been teaching, what I've been teaching. And it's also about exploring the teaching rather than kind of saying, well, this is how it is. It's a sort of exploration of my research and sort of, how it kind of fits within this theme of, perhaps it fits within the theme of this inclusive institution, but we can discuss that as well, yeah. So I'm going to start my presentation. Please let me know if there's anything weird going on, because I've obviously got it on and I can't see anything. But hopefully you can all hear me and see my screen. Thank you. Okay, so good morning. I'm honored to be part of this panel, and I'd like to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to present my work and to share my personal experience under the theme Inclusive Institution, Culture and Heritage. I'm very happy to have received this theme to talk about because it aligns so strongly with the research I've been exploring for some years. I'm an architect who has worked both in South Africa and the UK. I began tutoring at the Wits School of Architecture in 2013 and slowly moved over to an academic career. As a new lecturer, I was encouraged to study further, and I chose to undertake a Master of Arts in Film and TV at Wits in order to explore the relationship between architecture and film. What you're seeing in the background is a short clip from the film that I produced, which accompanied my master's research report, where I explored the relationship between architecture and film through the notion that the human-place connection exists in both the disciplines of filmmaking and architecture. The background to what led me to explore this research stems from my experiences as an architect. I was involved in several projects in commercial practice, and whilst working, I noticed the lack of consideration in the design process, the diverse and complex relationships that exist among people, culture, and the places they inhabit. These social complexities seem to get stripped out in the design process, and people and life are viewed as abstractions or simplified objects within the architecture. I realized that the feelings, emotions, memories, subjectivities, and time attached to buildings and places are most often not felt or considered during the design process nor seen in architectural representations. Representations of people are often part of architectural drawings, however, they are usually used to show the scale and programmatic functionality of a space. Architects have been known to customize their figure abstractions, but these usually form part of the architect's identity and drawing style. When I started teaching architectural students, I became part of an institution whose architectural curriculum, which is based on the British RIBA tradition and is a combination of universal and modernist Western thinking, had not been changed since it was first introduced. The Fees Must Fall student-led protest movement affected me immensely. It made me aware that most students felt isolated and excluded because of the curriculum that we were teaching. Without realizing it, we were most likely excluding students because what we were teaching them was not relevant to their context. We were most likely teaching from the universal and modernist point of view that we believed was the only way to be, thus excluding other ways of being and other modes of situatedness in the world. So my creative research in architecture and design aims to achieve inclusive collaborative placemaking. The research is situated in the broad field of narratives in the design process, seeking to contribute new knowledge to architectural pedagogy and design theory. I thought that if architectural students could learn to design more meaningful, socially conscious places, acknowledging the diverse and complex aspects of life in the design process, and can show these aspects in architectural representations, could they then influence the architectural profession to promote more socially responsible and culturally sensitive designs? Also, how could educators enable discussions in design studios to deal with and understand the complex and multiple viewpoints of students who come from diverse backgrounds? I identified and responded to these problems by introducing the technique called character-led design. Character-led design proposes a technique to assist with creating inclusive environments for learners and assisting them to consider the complexities of life in the design process. It focuses on the design of places from a character's lived experience in the form of a narrative. The form of narrative in this technique is the filmic narrative of screenwriting. Starting a design with a script requires characters to embody the places in which their emotional journeys unfold. What you're seeing on the screen is a project called the Utopias Project, which was a first-year design project which we ran in 2018 and 2019. It had a large group work component and also an individual design component. The project was designed collaboratively by the first-year teaching team, with my specific contribution being the character-led design technique. The pedagogic process of the character-led design technique begins with writing a script about a context, real or imagined, through the eyes of characters that students have created. This enables students to think deeply about their context, as well as reflect on their beliefs and way of thinking within this context. The starting point was that each group is given a brief to write a script about how their tribe was formed, the cosmogenesis of their tribe. The script was then visualized into a storyboard which forms the visual basis for the design. Cosmos design and Cosmos model was the next step of the brief, where the written narrative takes on a physical manifestation of the cosmogenesis. Part of this process includes the design of a character based on the story of the beginning of their community. The protagonist character manifests into a scaled model figure who experiences the spatial journey through the physical model. The Cosmos model, which is the 1 in 20 physical representation of the mise-en-scene, includes 3 regions that represent 3 different stages of the cosmogenesis, Act 1, 2, and 3, beginning, middle, end. The 3 regions are integrated to create a larger cosmos and relate to each other visually, conceptually, and spatially. The students are required to think of the key elements that unfold in each region and design the spaces for the purpose to show the story of how the cosmos came into being. The story unfolds from the point of view of the characters that are experiencing the cosmogenesis. With the narrative setting and characters in place, the next step was for the students to capture their images for their stop frame animations. Sorry. The character and their journey through the cosmos was their main focus. Students were required to consider the background carefully. The world of the story is unconvincing if the audience sees the design studio in the background. And once the students captured their shots, they were taught how to edit and add relevant sound to their sequences. The second part of the project is the translation of the 1 in 20 spatial experience model into a 1-to-1 real-life stage set. Each student designs their own stage set, and the best, most workable are chosen to be made. Students need to redesign using only specific materials that we provided. These include timber pallets, grey cardboard, white fabric, pine branding, black string, and brass hinges only. These materials were equally distributed so that each group had an equal and fair starting point. They also needed to rewrite the script so that they become the characters acting out a performance with their stage sets at the Wits Amphitheatre. The aim of this script was for the students to figure out, through words, how they would reenact their cosmogenesis on stage, as well as figure out how their stage sets would be configured during the story. The stage set becomes one of the characters that the students need to move around in the context of the stage. Performance, lighting, and sound become key aspects of the design process. And in 2019, we collaborated with the Wits Drama for Life to assist students to free up their performances as well as to connect with the stage set as a character. The stage set had to spatially support the student narratives by defining the types of spaces that the story required, allowing for the action required, which is climbing, hiding, emerging, whatever, as well as evoking the right atmosphere. The stage set had to be a whole object that could be used in different ways, unfold, turn on its side, etc., to create a variety of spaces for the 3 acts of the performance. The set needed to be one whole connected piece, although it could be designed in such a way where it could be disassembled for transportation purposes. It needed to be a self-supporting structure. It needed to be strong enough to be used and reused in the stage performance and survive dismantling, transportation, and reassembly. In the first component of the Cosmos model, the students designed 3 spaces in succession, as this was a sequential journey that the initiate had to make, taking them through the narrative. While in this second component, it was the manipulation of the multivalent piece that created the different spaces, and the understanding of the narrative was dependent on the performance. The primary focus of the performance was how well the stage set was integrated and used as a key component for telling the story. The groups chose costumes that were to be either simple black or white. The performance was to show the action that was written in the script, which included people who were only performing and those who were only interacting with the movement of the set. The group had to consider sound and lighting, and the figure was always, when we look at the 1 in 20 Cosmos model, the figure was always inside the space. But in this 1-to-1 version, the performers created a dynamic space all around the stage set, with the stage set as a focus. But the performers had to suggest imagined space extending from it, not inside it. So the achievement of this character-led design technique is that it has changed the way that undergraduate architectural students learn about designing spaces. The students achieve spatial designs with qualities determined by ambience and meaning, not only by the length or height available. The character-led design technique initiates a design in 3 dimensions and includes the movement of a character who is sentient and who occupies and moves through spaces and time, which is different from designing on paper in 2-dimension with orthographic projections and abstract figures. The design occurs through the unconscious stages of a story, a character who inhabits a world where the story begins and ends. So the character-led design technique was also introduced into the Mythic Landscape project. This project combined a real South African mythical narrative taught to us by my colleague, Dr. Sechaba Mape, about a frightening mythical snake that resides in caves and rivers in Kuruman. The snake represents the emotion of fear, which is a crucial cultural element to the people in this community. The narrative generated a concept to ultimately design a pathway of initiation at the Wonderwerk cave site in Kuruman. The architectural representations that you see on the screen generated from the filmic narrative show strong spatial and emotional results. I also taught an elective course in design representation called Script Sketch Animate to second-year students in 2019 and 2020, which was about exploring and analyzing socio-political environments, history, culture, and people to inform placemaking. This was explored through hand drawing, techniques, digital tools, and film. The elective aimed to develop each student's unique sketching identity. As architects design for people, this elective aimed at an understanding of architecture through the lived experience. Focused on a person's story to create deep empathy and understanding of a user in their context, and combined filmmaking methodologies to explore experiential and emotive modes of unpacking and analyzing the neighborhood. The context for the elective is based in 14th Street Page View, also known as FITAS,